We as a people are very unaware of the abstract language the elitists use. Now, the elitists are people who think that they're above everyone. But anyway, we don't seem to understand the dangerous hate speech taking place right in front of us. Many people who hold political power communicate very clearly and directly, but they also communicate through abstractions. Abstractions, or rather, the art of abstraction, is the ability to gain meaning from things that are not said, or from things that are said but in a different way. So let me explain further. Here's Kamala Harris on the question of reparations, and you may have seen this.
Do you support reparations for Black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
Now, the statement that she would never enact policies to help only Black people is clear in that she does not feel they deserve any special attention, despite all the mouth service she gave about Black disparities and inequities just seconds before she said that. All of what she said concerning Black mistreatment means nothing. Kamala Harris just said in this interview that the plight of Black people means nothing to her, and it was missed because we don't recognize abstract language. Why do I say this? Well, facts. She negated all of what would be considered reason to give reparations at the end of her point on that issue. That's like telling a child who just fell and cut their hand that you see and recognize the pain and the bleeding, but they don't need any first aid. Just go back and play. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to see who she is from that interaction, but a lot of people obviously missed that and supported her anyway. Now let's look at Biden on the same question.
Vice President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, let me, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America, and we should invest in them. Everybody will benefit from it, every single American, and you should get used to it. This is a nation of immigrants. That's who we are. That's why we're who we are. That's what makes us different.
Now, Joe actually got angry and insulted that the question was even asked. He never even mentioned Black people, and snarled about how the immigrants built this country, and in a raging digression projected the most vile type of hate towards the very question of making black people whole. Now when I saw this, it was clear that it was a demonstration of the hate and vitriol that he held for black people. And all the things I read and saw beforehand were confirmed by this tirade. And me personally, I was certain that he sunk his chances for the presidency. But shockingly, he still got big support and is actually said to have been placed in office heavily by the black vote. These are two different examples of how some black people cannot read the abstractions and indirect messages that come from a lot of these elitists and elitist culture. Because I'll tell you something, the people who felt the same way as Joe surely understood what he was saying. Now when it comes to other nations of people, the language gets very clear. No special treatment for black people, but Afghan refugees get 9 billion. Or rather 6 billion. Asian people get COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. So what is all of this saying to black folk? In my last video, I said once you know the psychology of those who can look you in the eye with a smile while they loathe and despise you, you'll then recognize those actions for what they really are and mean. This abstract language is the evolved way of telling you they hate you. And I know that's hard for some of you to swallow, but I'm just making coded language plain. What kind of heartlessness would you yourself have if you cared for 2 children and you fed one every time they asked whatever they wanted, but you told the other child to get some cereal out of the cabinet because you didn't care if that child ate appropriately or not? One child falls in the yard and cuts their leg. You clean and bandage the wound. The other child falls. You tell them to quit crying and go back outside. We have to pierce through the political and oratorical haze and see what is being said clearly, because when we don't see what should be obvious, we are asking to be mistreated when we continue to support a dangerously neglectful system in any way, shape, or form. There's no way those two should be in the White House right now. Another abstract circumstance that we miss is the fact that despite the atrocious state of black people right now, black athletes and entertainers remain silent for the most part. But they do so rightfully because the people who support them day in and day out say with their actions that it's okay for them to make millions as they acquiesce to tyranny and do nothing to speak on behalf of their people and humanity in general. Now what does this say about the character of athletes and entertainers? Well, I'll let Baba D. Gregory tell you.
The filthiest people on this planet is athletes and entertainers, okay? You, with this show, have done more for the humanities than 99% of all the athletes and entertainers on the planet. But they've even tricked you to believe that you ain't nothing but doo-doo and they something big. They ain't nothing but a piece of shit, man. All of them, a handful of them, will break through, like Ali.
These people use a language that equates to the worst type of vitriol and open, silent warfare imaginable. And the shame in it all is the fact that some people actually fall for it. They can't see it for what it really is because of cognitive dissonant hopes and dreams about this reality, or just low cognitive thinking, period. In today's world, if you don't know people are trying to eliminate and crush you politically, then you're just not opening your eyes to reality. Again, I'm not saying these things to stop your progress, but they put people in office and positions who definitely will enact policies that will eventually catch up to the whole group and make things very, very difficult. Abstraction works best when the target does not demand clarity, and more than that, when the target does not demand equality.
This is the kind of thing that's going on here. This is not just an ordinary recession. This is a major restructuring of the world. And if African people do not wake up and understand what is going on, we are going to be surplus people. And this country has a very clear record of what it does with surplus people. It does not feed them welfare. It does not give them handout. It kills them. Read the history of the Native American. The Native American in the United States was not destroyed simply because they were surplus, you see. They were of little or no economic value to this country. And therefore, this country did not intend to feed what it called useless mouths. And therefore, it could better live without them. And there is no capitalist system that's going to carry on the burden of millions of people. It will see you dead before it will see itself dragged into the ground. White folk are not going to see a decline in their power or a decline in their dominance because they're taking care of black folk. I want you to make that very clear. If they have to make a choice between being number one in the world and top dog in the world and carrying a bunch of black folk on their back, there's no choice at all. The decision is already made in the question. They're going to rid themselves of you, like any other people in their right minds will do. So let's continue. You got to face the hard reality. It's only a brainwashed Negro that will sacrifice himself to other people.
If you learned from this video, help support the study and time to bring this knowledge to our community. It does take time and effort to be concise and as accurate as possible so that we can stay abreast of important health information and techniques. Please visit the site and follow these links.